So what is up, guys? Sooner the South back, and today we are here with NFL Week Steve Young predictions. That's 8. Man, we have already made it so far. We are nearly at the midpoint of the season, and of course, I'm coming out with these videos, every week, and I got a lot of predictions to get to. So you don't want to see an outro. You want to see the video. You want the video? You got it. Let's get started right now. So first, you start off with our Thursday night football matchup, which is the Washington Redskins versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, as I'm filming this, I was a little bit crunched for time, so I'm currently filming mid-game, and it's currently 3-0 Vikings. So last week, the Redskins lost the 49ers 9-0, and the Vikings beat the Lions 42-30. So starting off with the Redskins, this has been a terrible season. Last week you didn't play football, you played slip and slide. The weather at FedEx Field was just terrible. The field conditions were terrible. You may have limited the Niners' offense, yeah, but that was just a reason for their defense just to smother you guys. Case Keenum, 77 yards. Adrian Peterson had 81 rushing yards. Overall, it was just a terrible game, mainly due to the conditions. And then the Vikings, you got to play in a dome. You played a very good game. Kirk Cousins, 338 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook had 142 rushing yards. Stephon Diggs has really stepped it up lately. He wants to be out of Minnesota so badly, so he might try to look better so he can actually get traded to a decent team that really needs a wideout. Maybe go to the Saints. But honestly, this game, people will not stop about Case Keenum returning to freaking Minnesota, because all I hear is Minneapolis Miracle this, Minneapolis Miracle that. Just stop. A Minneapolis Miracle meant nothing. I know it was an amazing play at the time, but a week later, the Vikings, you guys got smothered. At that point, the Minneapolis Miracle was nothing. Sure, it got you further in the playoffs, but overall, you guys lost. You got decimated by the Eagles. But anyways, enough with that little rant. I definitely think that this game's going to go to the Vikings. The Redskins are just terrible, so Vikings win this one. Moving on. So now we are moving on to our very next matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. So starting off, the Seahawks lost to the Ravens 30-16, and then the Falcons lost to the Rams 37-10. So, there's a lot to talk about. Let's start off with the Seahawks. You guys had so much momentum going into you, but then eventually you faced the Ravens, and they beat you. It was a tough game. Bad conditions. Russell Wilson, 241 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. The first pick he has thrown all season. Chris Carter, the ground game was okay. Just barely got over 100 scrimmage yards. Receiving wise, okay. But Lamar Jackson ran for 116 yards, threw for 143. He was just owning you guys all game, but the Ravens defense stepped up, mainly with a big pick 6 from Marcus Peters. But anyways, going on to the Falcons, you guys are screwed. Your team actually sucks. You do have one of the better offensive units in the league, but your defense is just terrible. I never knew it would get this bad after losing Keanu Neal. But anyways, what's going to hurt is that Matt Ryan is injured. So now you got Matt Schaub as quarterback, who's okay, but he's past his prime. Last week, Devontae Freeman didn't get much going. Julio, 6 receptions, 93 yards, no touchdowns. He's not going to get those touchdowns. Austin Hooper having to be a bit of a workhorse, 4 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Not much else to say. If I got to pick a winner, Seahawks, easily. The Falcons actually suck right now. So Seahawks win. Moving on. So now we move on to our very next matchup, which is the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Chicago Bears. Starting off, the Chargers, they lost to the Titans 23-20, and then the Bears lost to the Saints 36-25. Starting off, both these teams, they're in must-win territory. This is kind of like a statement game. Starting off with the Chargers, how'd you lose to the Titans? How'd you lose to Ryan Tannehill? He actually had himself an okay game. Rivers, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns. The rushing game was completely silenced, except Austin Eckler on the ground was nothing but in the air. 7 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. Man, I didn't think your defense would be this bad, especially missing Derwin James. But honestly, you guys need to win. You're 2-5. If you want a shot at the playoffs, you have to win. And then the Bears, what the hell was last week? Like, seriously, the Saints. We kicked your ass last week. Your rushing game, you guys were held to under 20 rushing yards. Like, we have one of the best pass rushing defenses in the league. And then we exposed Trubisky, even though he did throw for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns, but that was all in garbage time. Other than that, you guys were completely silenced. Like, all those... Like, you scored 10 in the first half, and then you scored 15 in the fourth quarter. That was garbage time. But your big touchdown of the day was a Cordell Patterson return touchdown, which was pretty good. I didn't really get to watch this game last week since I was coming home from Buffalo. And honestly, Trubisky was terrible. Your team was terrible last week. The only reason you kept it close was due to garbage time. Anyways, I got to pick a winner this one. I think the Chargers will rebound and win. Okay, so now we are moving on to the New York Jets versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jets came off an embarrassing 33-0 loss against the Pats, and the Jaguars came off a 27-17 victory against the Bengals. So starting off with the Jets, I don't want to hear anything about how you guys were supposed to be a good team going for playoffs for the wild card. Well, because your last freaking performance did not show me anything. Sam Darnold, 11 for 32, 86 yards, and 4 picks. The number of picks he threw was higher than his quarterback rating. He threw 4 picks and had a 3.6 quarterback rating. What in the literal hell was that? That was maybe one of the worst performances I've seen. Le'Veon can only do so much. He didn't even do much. Only ran for 70 yards. Honestly, your team was a mess. You lost the defense, the Patriots offense, Sonny Michel did rush for 3 touchdowns, but they were all just short. I mean, the defense just suffocated you guys. Nothing else. And you move on to the Jaguars, you beat the Bengals. They're 0-7. They're now 0-7. Andy Dalton went back to throwing picks as he threw 3 of them. Joe Mixon, I don't get why he's not getting much. But you did have a bit of a surgence recently by Alex Erickson, so that's something to look forward to. But anyways, this isn't about the Bengals. This is about the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew II, 255 yards, a touchdown. Leonard Fournette had to do everything, 29 carries for 131 yards. D.D. Westbrook was actually big, had a pretty good performance. 6 receptions, 103 yards. DJ Chark was definitely limited. Pick a winner for this one. I don't trust the Jets. I don't care what you say. They're making playoffs. Honestly, grow up. Like, honestly, you need a reality check. It's going to be the Jaguars. Honestly, Jets, just tank. You'll probably get someone better on offense and actually maybe contend within the next 2 or 3 years. Moving on, Jags win. So now we are moving on to our very next matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. The Bengals, well, they came off a 27-17 loss against the Jaguars, and then the Rams came off a 37-10 victory over the Falcons. So starting off, the Rams, I'll start off with the Rams in this one. They played a pretty good game. I mean, it's pretty easy to put up 37 points when you're facing the freaking Falcons defense. Jared Goff, 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley, he didn't get too much going on. The rushing game was very limited, but Todd Gurley did get 1 reception for 13 yards and a touchdown. You guys didn't have to do too much. You stopped them on defense, caused them to constantly turn the ball over. Jared Goff, he did play well after his last performance, which was a disaster. Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, and Cooper Kupp, they all combined for just about 15 receptions. Barely scraping over 180 yards. But anyways, then you move on to the Bengals. You guys, geez, I think maybe there could be... Sadly, there's not going to be 2 undefeated teams because the Bengals and the Dolphins will have to square up this year, which sucks. But anyways, that doesn't matter. The Bengals, Andy Dalton was terrible. 276 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. Joe Mixon, your O-line's terrible, so Mixon can't get anything going. You guys were limited to just about 33 rushing yards, and that was all from Andy Dalton, as Mixon only got 2, Bernard got nothing, and Alex Erickson got -2. So it was all Dalton. Alex Erickson has been performing very well, filling in for AJ Green, maybe even slightly going over Tyler Boyd. Who knows? But anyways, if I want to pick a winner for this one, I mean, your defense also sucks. So winner for this one, easily, LA Rams. So now we are moving on to our very next matchup between the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions. Starting off, the Giants lost to the Cardinals 27-21, and then the Lions lost to the Vikings 42-30. Starting off with the Giants, well, you lost to Arizona. Honestly, I'm surprised you lost, especially because they beat you on the ground, and it wasn't David Johnson. It was Chase Edmonds. Who the hell is Chase Edmonds? And, Kyler Murray only threw for 100 yards. Didn't really do anything because it was all Chase Edmonds. But anyways, Daniel Jones threw for 223 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Saquon Barkley was back. Only ran for 72 yards and a touchdown. Receiving-wise, only had 8 reception yards. He's coming off an injury. I'd be careful with him for now, but I think he'll be fine. Golden Tate, of course, anchored the receiving corps, 6 receptions, 80 yards. I'm just baffled that you lost to Chase Edmonds. And then, I gotta keep moving, but anyways, then you move on to the Detroit Lions. Matt Stafford actually played a pretty good game. He actually got a lot of good fantasy points and points in general, even though he mainly pads that in garbage time. He didn't need garbage time. He was pretty good. 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. You guys are screwed in the rushing game. Kerryon Johnson will not be available. So Matt Stafford's going to have to throw, Amendola, 105 yards, no touchdowns. But Marvin Jones, 10 receptions, 93 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was just the guy that did everything. Anyways, not much else to say. If I want to pick a winner of this one, I think it's going to be the Lions. Lions will pull out on top. Alright, so as we move along, we jump into Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Tennessee Titans. The Buccaneers, they had the bye, but their last game, they lost 37-26 against the Panthers. And then the Titans, last week, they actually did beat the LA Chargers 23-20. So starting off, Buccaneers, honestly, Jameis Winston, I hope you better not have another week like you did against the Panthers. Sure, you threw for 400 yards and a touchdown, but that also included 5 interceptions and a fumble. His decision-making is terrible as always. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they did a very good job combining for over 200 receiving yards. The rushing game, very limited, but they're going to be more of a pass-happy offense, which is a bit concerning, especially because of Jameis Winston due to his horrible decision-making. He's got to get that all down. And then you got the Titans, you surprised me pulling off the victory against the Chargers. The Chargers came this close, but you stopped them. So good job. Tannehill, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, played a good game. Derrick Henry, 90 yards and a touchdown. Corey Davis, 6 receptions, 80 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, your defense was able to stop the Chargers, who have had a hard time getting it all together this year. Not much else I can say, but if I got to pick a winner of this one, I'm going to go with the Titans. I think they have a pretty good defense. I mean, their defense is okay, but Buccaneers have a terrible defense, and I think Jameis Winston will continue to throw turnovers. Interceptions, I mean. Anyways, Titans win. Moving on. So now we are moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles came off a 37-10 loss against the Cowboys, and the Bills came off a 31-21 victory against the Dolphins. That was one hell of a game I went to. It was fun. I did vlog the whole experience, so go check that out. Link will be in the description below. Anyway, starting out with the Eagles, what the hell was last week? You guys were all hype, no action. Carson Wentz, 191 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. The rushing game, you guys got over 100 rushing yards, but your defense was just picked apart by Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. But anyways, your receivers, Dallas Goedert, had 69 yards and a touchdown, but that was it. Zach Ertz has had a hard time this season. I think people realize that he's much more of a threat, so they're covering him a little bit more. So I kind of get that. And then there's not really nothing else I can say is that you guys got completely wrecked by the Cowboys. And then the Bills, well, you faced the Dolphins, not too big. I mean, you guys got off to a horrible first half. I mean, you scored all your points. Well, 22. You had 22 fourth quarter points. Josh Allen 16 for 26, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If I saw one big mistake in the game, I remember. I actually have Devin Singletary on a couple of my fantasy teams. He actually got open and was running down the field, and I just kept yelling, pass it to Singletary, pass it to Singletary. But anyways, enough about that. Your rushing game was okay. John Brown broke out 5 receptions, 83 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, it's pretty easy to stop the Dolphins. I mean, your highlight of the game to me was, of course, the kickoff, the onside kick return by your boy Micah Hyde. That was a very good play. He just leaped over the Seahawks and ran it in. Anyways, got to pick one. Honestly, this is a very important game for both teams. The Bills so they can maybe have a chance to tie the Patriots, and then the Eagles just to actually still have playoff hopes. But if I got to pick a winner of this one, I don't really trust Philly right now, so I'm going to go with Buffalo. Moving on. So now we are moving on to our very next matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts, the only teams Peyton Manning has played for. Enough about that. The Broncos came off a 30-6 loss against the Chiefs, and the Colts came off a 30-23 victory over the Texans, which was very good. Anyways, moving on, starting off with the Broncos, you're facing the Chiefs. I know they have a very weak secondary, but you guys couldn't do anything against them. They lost Mahomes Mahomes was out for most of the game, so you got stuffed by Matt Moore. Tough. So Flacco, 213 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman, just over 70 rushing yards. Your offense went nowhere. It's against the Chiefs. What the hell? So honestly, the Broncos were terrible last week. The Colts, back in my Andrew Luck video, I said you guys should be tanking for Tua. Jacoby Brissett, you have shocked me. Thank you for making me look like such a dick. Anyways, Brissett, 326 yards and 4 touchdowns. Marlon Mack, only 44 rushing yards. Zach Pascal was the big man, 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton, 74 yards and a touchdown. Eric Ebron, 70 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, a very good game played offensively. You went up defensively. You went up against the Texans. That's a pretty tough team to go up against. But honestly, you proved me wrong. You did a very good job picking a winner for this one. It's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. So now you are moving on to our final 1 o'clock matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. The Cardinals came off a 27-21 victory over the Giants, and the Saints came off a 36-25 victory over the Bears. Anyways, starting off with the Cardinals, last week you guys really did it all on the ground. Chase Edmonds, 126 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyler Murray only threw for 104 yards. I can't really say much about your receivers. They did nothing. The Giants, they kept it close with you guys for a while, but eventually you pulled off at the end. Not much else to say. And then you have the New Orleans Saints. Teddy Bridgewater, 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. Latavius Murray, 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas, 9 receptions, 131 yards. But of course, Taysom Hill, just the ultimate trick master. But anyways, what a job last week. We were missing Breeze, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Traquan Smith, and yet we still smothered the best defense in the league. So apparently there is talk about Drew Brees returning this week, and if this is Teddy Bridgewater, if you're watching this, and I highly doubt you'll ever see it, thank you. Thank you so much for what you have done. I know you were given a big task to fill. We were 1-1. Breeze would be out for some time, and honestly, the odds were against you. You had a lot of tough teams to face. You had the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, and the Bears. The ones that scared me the most were the Cowboys and the Bears through their defense. But a lot of people, including myself, had their questions. A lot of people, including a lot of my friends and classmates at school, kept saying, Saints suck, Bridgewater sucks, they're not winning, they're not making playoffs. But you went 5-0. You defied the odds. You made every one of those people completely eat it. So anyone who doubted me, fuck you. Get the fuck out of here. Bridgewater just did what he needed to do. Filled the spot in. I was expecting he to go 4-2. He went 5-0, maybe 6-0, but anyways, thank you, Teddy, for what you have done. And it doesn't matter who's starting this game. Saints win. Moving on. So now we have moved on to the 4 o'clock time slot, and now we have the Carolina Panthers versus the San Francisco 49ers. The Panthers came off from their bye week, but their last game they beat the Buccaneers 37-26, and then the 49ers came off a 9-0 victory over the Redskins. So starting off with the Panthers, man, coming off your bye week, I cannot wait to see what happens when Cam Newton's healthy. Who starts, him or Kyle Allen? Because Kyle Allen, a lot like Bridgewater, has done a very good job at fitting in. But anyways, Kyle Allen, 227 yards and 2 touchdowns. McCaffrey was only held to just around 60 yards, which is a very good performance. I mean, the Buccaneers, for some reason, always find the secret to stopping Christian McCaffrey. But, of course, the main highlight was your defense. I mean, you gave up 400 yards, but you did pick off Jameis Winston 5 times and made him fumble once. Anyways, overall a decent game you guys played. Then the 49ers, you guys are 6-0. Still a lot of question marks surround you. How good's can the offense actually be productive, or are you guys just all about the defense? I mean, the defense was everything since you played on a slip and... You didn't play on a football field. You played on a slip and slide. Jimmy Garoppolo, 151 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida, and, your little running back by committee doing everything. Honestly, the offense didn't do much. Your defense is what stopped the Redskins, so very good performance. Nothing else to say. Got to pick a winner this one. I think Kyle Allen's streak ends. Christian McCaffrey will meet a very good defense, and the 49ers will win. And now we move on to our very next match between the Oakland Raiders and the Houston Texans. I think the last time these two met was for maybe one of the worst playoff games. It was the 2016 AFC wildcard game. Connor Cook versus Brock Osweiler. That already sounds terrible. But anyways, the Raiders lost the Packers 42-24, and then the Texans, they lost the Colts 30-23. Starting off, the Raiders, I mean, you guys are 3-3. You guys are okay, but let's see. Derek Carr, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He did have one crucial fumble. He was trying to rush in for a touchdown. He dives and he lets go of the ball, and then it goes in the end zone, and it's called a touchback. Like, Derek Carr, you really got to get that down. But anyways, moving on. Josh Jacobs, 124 yards. Darren Waller had 126 reception yards, your tight end, with 2 touchdowns. Jacobs didn't really get too much going in the air, but he did do it on the ground. Your defense, well, you got toyed with by Aaron Rodgers. Moving on, Texans, you guys, I don't know what to say. Like, sometimes Watson will be clean, throw no picks, have a very good game, but he was 308 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Hopkins finally returned 106 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Stills 105 yards, no touchdowns. I think you guys are going to be without Kiki Kute or Will Fuller for the next little while, which is going to be tough. Your defense, it's pretty tough, especially without the Honey Badger as your safety. But other than that, your defense is just a mess. Your rushing game is non-existent. Want to pick a what if this one? Texans. And now we are moving on to our final 4 o'clock game between the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns. Starting off, the Cleveland Browns, they were on their bye week last week and they needed it. And they lost, in their last match, they lost to the Seahawks 32-28 after a promising lead that they blew. And then the Patriots, they won 33-0. Starting off with the Browns, you guys are all hype, no action. Baker Mayfield, his swagger's gotten to him. He's cocky as ever. 249 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Nick Chubb's literally got to carry the whole offense. OBJ, 6 receptions, 101 yards, very good. But the defense, Myles Garrett is doing what he needs to do. But other than that, you guys are struggling. You guys need to win this game to do a complete 180 or 360 on your season. And the Patriots, come on. You won 33-0. You beat the Jets, who were supposed to be all this hype, but you were nothing. Brady, 249 yards, 1 touchdown and a pick. Sony Michel had 42 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, but all of them were basically on the 1-yard line. Nothing impressive. James White, he led receiving mainly because checkdowns were thrown to him. Your defense did a very good job. I mean, you're facing Darnold. You made him have a QB rating lower than his interception count, 3.6 compared to 4, which is tough. So, honestly, like I said, this is a match that the Browns need to win, but they're not gonna. It's gonna be the Patriots. And now you have our final matchup, maybe one of the worst primetime matchups that could actually come up between the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting off, the Dolphins, they lost the Bills 31-21. I think 21 points is the most they've scored all season. And the Steelers were on their bye, but they beat the Chargers 24-17. Starting off, Dolphins, I got nothing to say. Your defense is terrible. Fitzpatrick was okay, but then all of a sudden he went Fitzception, threw a pick to Tre'Davious White, and that just kind of completely changed the course of the game. Your rushing game was all led by Mark Walton, and your receivers were Preston Williams and Devontae Parker. That's it. And then the Steelers, you beat the Chargers. That was a very good game you played. You kept them scoreless until the fourth quarter. Delvin Hodges, did what he needed to do. James Conner just did everything. Over 120 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. Your defense looks pretty good, but honestly, Mason Rudolph is coming back, but there's nothing else I can say about this game except it's going to suck. And the Steelers will come out on top as, like I said, the Dolphins, they're going right down the track to 0-16. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to see the rest of my prediction videos, all the links will be in the description below. If you want to see my vlog, that link will be in the description below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe my channel, comment down below who you got winning this week. And whether you or not you agree with my predictions, make sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat @StudentStabs. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Who Dat Nation is out.